Welcome to Fluently Social, where we discuss the heartbeat of social media for brands, musicians, and creators. Dig into industry insights, hot takes, and the new way to speak the language of the internet with the team at Austere, an award-winning Visuals First viral social agency.
Welcome everybody to our first podcast here at Austere. We're super stoked. I've got me, Natasha, Lauren, and James here with me, and we're really excited to talk through our first episode concept called Rise and Fall. We are obviously all about socials, and really this comes down to showing up for what is happening in the madness of Jojo Siwa, what is going on with Kylie's cosmetic line and her whole business, and what does the future of social content for brands look like. So we hope you like it, we hope you're excited, and let's dive in. So I've been on vacation for the last week or so, just relaxing at the beach, and as soon as I started opening up my phone to TikTok and just scrolling through, it's been like every single post has been Jojo Siwa, and it's been memes of Jojo Siwa making memes of herself, all these things that have just felt like a madness of her whole entire rebrand. I watched the music video and was wildly confused, but also intrigued, and I think that's kind of been the point of the whole thing this whole time. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Have you seen it?
Absolutely. I mean, and to transparency, I have been following along the Jojo Siwa lifestyle since Dance Moms. I have been a reality TV fan since way back then. And I think her persona really has leaned heavy into the I'm different. Even back then, it was like, I'm different. And I think it really worked in some cases. I think it worked with the JoJo and the big bows and that whole life that she was doing. And what hasn't, I mean, you know, what I've seen recently is her trying to shift into this more like, who is JoJo grown up? And and she's just trying it in a way that's not feeling authentic.
Yeah, I gotta hop in on that point. So my sisters, for reference, I didn't watch a lot of Dance Moms. My wife did, so I knew who Jojo Siwa was. And it gives me the sense of she wanted to be so different that it almost went to a fault. If you look at the music video, first of all, let's talk about the costuming. Looks like something from the mid-70s. Like, she looks like Sting from Kiss. There's the whole scene where she's coming out of the water looking like Pennywise in the sewers. It really strikes me as just wanting to be different to a fault and not really something that's authentic.
100%.
Yeah.
It's, at first watching it, I was shocked. I was watching people react to it, and it was the whole new persona of like basically taking what she had been doing, the bow and the colors and the sequence and all that stuff, and basically just seeing it like with a different band-aid on it. Just, we changed out the colors, but we kind of kept the same product all on the inside. And I think that's really what's not hitting for people, is you can't call this a rebrand if this is just like a refresh, you know? That's just not accurate at all. And it's almost frustrating as a marketer to see. As someone who does branding for musicians, it's just like, oh, you missed the note on how different you're supposed to go if you're talking about a new era and you're trying to get people excited about that new era.
Yeah, when you're still driving around in the car with your face on it, it doesn't match this whole like edgy goth kind of gal that we're trying to be. And, you know, I mean, honestly, I think she's talking herself into, you know, the PR is not working. You know, even the comments of, you know, her inventing, you know, gay pop. You know, we have, you know, Tegan and Sarah reacting to these videos like, where were we? like that was us. We were there. And, I think that, it's hard though. She was a child star. She didn't really get a choice. And I think her trying to find herself isn't working. She's trying to find who she thinks other people want her to be. And I think that is the miss. And that's not only from a marketing perspective, but from, every lens. That's the miss is you can't, we don't know what everyone else is going to love. And that's why if you can just show up as you online, exactly you can generally get a good subset of people to love you, love your product, love your brand. But when you try to hit a place that just isn't real, you're never going to land.
So how much do you think then is JoJo's own doing and not someone else who's controlling the strings?
So just this morning, I watched the Call Her Daddy interview with JoJo. And I mean, there were a lot of revelations for me just listening to that. I would recommend everyone go listen to it. It's really, really impactful. It made me think about her a little differently, but the main things I got from it was she even speaks to it on the podcast. She's like, people think I have my team doing this. People think I have other people telling me what to do. I've always been in charge of what I want to do, and I'm fully responsible for this direction and image and aesthetic that I'm creating. And she points out, she's like, I am an artist more than anything, and so I'm just showing people my art. And whether you like it or not, this is the art I'm creating for you. And as much as I think it is not good and it's not a good take, it's interesting to see her owning it and saying, like, I very much come from a past of being on a show with Dance Moms and all those things where she talks about a story about her mom would get mad at her for not getting the best placements on the show, and she'd be at the bottom of the pyramid and all this stuff, and then she'd be like, Mom, what are you talking about? The person at the bottom of the pyramid gets the most airtime. And so ever since she was like 11, she's already understood that like publicity, whether good or bad, is still publicity and attention. And I think she's kind of leaned on that her whole career. And she might be a marketing genius in the worst way if this is like her seeing this and saying, I think this is cool, and I definitely don't care if you don't think this is cool, but I want you to talk about it anyways, because now you all know my lyrics. I know the lyrics. I'm singing it around the house all the time, just ironically,
Yeah, shock and awe. I think that has been her shtick. It's been shock and awe. And, I think it could work for a time. I think it can work for a time. I don't think it's a way, and this is why I think that PR and having a team, PR, marketing, it's a whole engine. I think that having a team for any brand, and she's a brand, whether she wants to be a brand, right? Like, and really we all are our own personal brand. I think that if you want to grow that brand, that's where you need a team. You have to have people. You can have input, and you can have direction and create full creative direction, but you have to have somebody tell you, hey, that light is red. And you're like, no, it's yellow. I see it. It's yellow. And you're like, no, it's actually red. I see it. It's already turned. Like, you have to have someone who can see the big picture, who has, who's not as emotionally invested, right? And that's why having an outside perspective and an outside marketing team, PR team works, because they're not invested emotionally.
Yeah.
I think there's a nice give and take with that, though, because if we look at a lot of different artists who have this unbridled creative power, I don't want to go too far off the rails, but Jojo Siwa and what she's doing, just the shock and awe, like almost represents some of what Kanye has done. Just shock and awe for publicity to sell something. Now, in that case, like, he's doing it in a different way. He's made his billions through his merch and other formats, but what is going to be that thing for JoJo? Like, what is her brand trying to stand for, and what ultimately is the end result of that?
Well, look at the end result for Kanye. And I'm not saying his story's over, but what he has done in the most recent years, allegedly has said and done, like, I mean, and not even just like what he has posted and the things that he has talked about, subsets of people. I mean, he is not, doing this well anymore. It worked for him, like we said, for a time. The shock and awe worked for a time. But I don't see how, I mean, there are large now groups of people who you mention Kanye's name and everything just turns off.
He's polarizing.
They don't buy the Yeezys. They don't buy that. Like, people are like posting videos of themselves like burning Yeezys. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the shock and awe worked, and there's always a downfall to this, especially when you're switching up your narrative. I think the shock of it was he switched his narrative so many times. And you're like, oh, now he's supporting this political affiliation. Now he's, anti this. Now he loves this. And really the shock of it was like, oh my gosh, what's Kanye doing next? But what happened is like, we don't trust Kanye. So
That's
I think that's
such a good point.
So would JoJo not be walking down that same path? As long as
absolutely
continues to be this muddied, she's going to have to rely on this shock and all to stay relevant. And we've just seen over time that is not the way for celebrities to, one, keep growing themselves as a brand, or two, stay even culturally relevant. They do become memes. They do become laughing stocks. And we're already starting to see that with JoJo.
She, with this whole thing, reminds me of, do you guys remember that girl that made that music video for like $100 or something? And it was like, Friday, gotta get down on
Rebecca,
Friday.
What's her name?
She's reminding me of that girl in this sense. That girl now is like super cool and like just interesting and whatever, but like she had to grow out of that and find herself and be an adult. And I think that's the challenge of this is she's trying to remodel what she's already done to think that it's going to work for an older audience or even her audience. She's 20, right? She admits in her podcast that she did with Call Her Daddy too that like all her friends are in their 30s and she only has one friend who's like 23. So she doesn't even have people around her age to tell her like this is weird. Her mom does all of her like bedazzling and costuming. So her mom's probably egging her on, being like, yeah, let's do this costume for your music video, blah, blah, blah. She has no one honest around her, no creative director around her. And truthfully, every artist thinks that they can be their own creative director. Sometimes it works. We've got Billie Eilish, who's an incredible creative director for herself. She's always been behind the scenes, making the concepts for her music videos, working with her brother, all that stuff. We've had Lady Gaga, who was from the inception of her rebrand, which I remember when she was just a New York girl playing bars, just herself, to the Lady Gaga she became. She actually met with Kiss and did a whole like, how did you guys do your branding? And then they walked her through that, and that's how she actually did it. But she became an incredible creative director. Not everyone is, and that, just like you're saying, Lauren, like some people need guidance from people outside the bubble who are not just going to say, "Oh, you're so pretty. Oh, you're so pretty. You're perfect. Whatever you want, girl." People need to be hard with her, and I think she's just still delusional about it. Like she doesn't think that it's bad. She thinks what she's doing is good. And I don't think, because she's been in the public eye for so long, not willing to hear the negativity, she's not I don't know if we're going to see the next phase very quickly. I think it may take a long time before she actually rebrands and has her Miley moment like she wants.
And that's so funny that, bringing up Miley, Miley really did take a long time to come back. I would say even just recently post-divorce is when she was able to even come back into music and be, Miley. Miley's had multiple phases. She's gone through the same thing. She started out as the child star. Then she rebranded into this, I'm an adult. I'm going to, sing naked. For lack of better, I'm going to show you what an adult I am. And then, people didn't love that. It was a very harsh reset of like, oh, you're not Disney Channel star Hannah Montana. You are now an adult who's trying really hard to be an adult. And I think that, You know what the difference was? I think that Miley, even just recently with her Flowers and all of that era that has come out, this is the authenticity that people have been waiting for. You know, like people heard the music and they were like, oh, this is what you've been going through. This is who you are. And it really, while it still was controversial, the take and she was able to still be that like shock and awe with the music video and with the song, but people liked it because it was real. I think that's literally what it comes down to. We know this isn't real for JoJo. I mean, I don't know JoJo, but like I can tell this is not it. Like this is not it.
Maybe this is her moment, just like for Miley with Wrecking Ball. Like this is the changing of identities. Like everyone for so long saw Miley as that child star. They couldn't see her in another light. So she needed to burn down what people thought of her and perceived her. And yeah, it was negative for a while, but that needed to shift so that people could truly see her. Maybe this is just the stage JoJo's in.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a good point.
She apparently just had her family move out of her house. So now she officially is like living on her own. I wonder if her essentially like leaving the nest or having the nest leave her more really is going to help her do some growing up, because she claims to be a very adult person and she has this like Joelle versus JoJo, I think that's her name, where she's like, this is the real me versus this is like the persona me. And I wonder if we're going to start seeing like the real her over time. Without her trying to be G-Flip with the clothing or Miley with the outlandish music video and craziness. Maybe we'll get like a less hyped up, I've been drinking Celsius all day long and I have too much sugar in me version of herself that people can relate to. Because right now, like young adults, people in their 20s, people in their 30s, like we can't relate to her. She doesn't feel like someone we would want to listen to, want to support, want to believe in. She just doesn't fit the cultural vibe that I think people have right now when it comes to musicians that they want to engage with. And I again, like that's going to take a hard shift for her to be able to get there. But I don't know if it's possible, at least maybe like not for a few years. She's going to keep trying and not reading the comments. And I think you need to have that feedback loop, because if you're just ignoring the comments, whether you're a musician, a brand, whatever, you will lose out on the feedback that you need to improve or to make it more clear what you're trying to do. Like, people need that stuff. What's up? Natasha here from Austere. Just hoping you're liking the podcast, and I wanted to give away a little freebie for you because I'm feeling spicy. We have this really awesome weekly trends report called Reported, and it's essentially a report around social news, trends, top sounds, and so much more. We send it out every Friday. It's absolutely free, and we want you to have it. If you want access to this report, again, completely free because we love you, and we don't want you to spend countless hours online like the rest of us who need a lot of coffee to survive, check out buyaustere.com/trends report, aka BYAUSTERE.com/trends report. Check it out. Hope you like it, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Please give us 5 stars. We really would appreciate it. Okay, bye.
You made a really good point when we're talking about the relatability. I mean, that like is a good segue, I think, into our next topic of the Kylie Jenner, Kylie Cosmetics era. I mean, I have so much to say on this topic. You know, I think Kylie as a brand worked in the same way that JoJo was relatable to the little kids with the big bows. Kylie, in her King Kylie era, her Tumblr Kylie era, she was on Snapchat at the Grove with her friends, while she was also this like aspirational being, right? And that's when this all started. That's when the Kylie Cosmetics got kicked off. That's when the whole Kylie lip kits, we're going to come out with these lip kits. But Kylie was a teenager. Kylie was doing teenager things. And I think that's what made it so interesting and so relatable and so it was a phenomenon. Like, people were waiting for the drops. People were literally couldn't get enough of these dang lip kits. You know, and I think that fall is you know, is a result of there's no more relatability. And I think it's not just with Kylie, it's with a lot of the, you know, mega celebrity brands. You know, Kylie wasn't a mega celebrity when she started Kylie Cosmetics. Kylie was a relatable teenager, and maybe not relatable to every teenager, but there were some aspects of her life that other people could relate to. I mean, you know, not me, but like any teenager would be like, I go to the Grove and go to Sephora. I'm, you know, going, you know, shopping in Calabasas at the mall. I'm, you know, out with my friends in cars doing silly Snapchat videos. But she was sharing that with the world. It wasn't this highly produced thing. You know, and I think that that's really where she was able to shine. And that's where she was able to really kick this brand off the ground.
It's interesting even more because she did all that and then she became a mom, and I think that completely changed like how she engaged on social media too. Not that becoming a mom means your career is over. It was more like she changed her priorities and stopped being as much on socials as just like a wild kid. She got, you know, all that stuff happened very young in her life. And then she became kind of like a recluse. She even stopped really showing up on Keeping Up, and her lack of visibility over time, that will affect any brand. If you are a person attaching a brand to you, what you change or do in your life will likely have a reactive approach to what happens to your brand, period. So I get nervous sometimes about celebrities and creators putting their entire name and brand behind a product, because the longevity of it now potentially could be significantly cut unless you then learn to separate and create the independence of the brand to the person. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point.
I think the shift in the audience dynamics, especially for Kylie, matters a lot. So to your point, Lauren, you know, she was the epitome of the teenage, let's call her an it girl, right? Everyone wanted to see what she was doing. Everyone wanted to follow her. Although, like, having a child and being a mother does put you in a different audience, it seems that disconnect is still strong. Like, the people who grew up watching her are now probably mid-20s, getting into early 30s. Most of them probably are moms too. Priorities are different. Aspirations are different. Goals are different. And I don't really think Kylie as a brand represented what those differences mean to people. She didn't really go back to the goalpost. She tried to keep to the same core that got her to where she was, even though her audience was maturing out of that.
100%. And so I saw a TikTok like earlier this week that showed the financials of the business year over year, like decreasing quite significantly. And because of, it was basically take on like something's happening and you know something's happening because this, and this. And essentially year over year records, sales are down and down and down for Kylie Cosmetics. And all of a sudden Kylie launches 3 new random, super, super random lifestyle brands. And they really don't have anything to do with kind of like iconic elements of her personality, her interests, whatever. They're just super random. I don't remember what they were. I don't know if you guys do. Do you?
There's like some leather brand, some like leather. I definitely saw that, which and a fragrance. And like that's what we don't even remember what they are. I think that's the point. They're so disconnected from her as a brand that we don't even remember what they are. I think, you know, who's actually doing this very well is Kourtney Kardashian. She has launched her supplement line, Lemmy. She has self-proclaimed been the health guru of this family for the past 10 years. 10 years of her being, and that is true to the core, at least the true to the core that we're being shown, right? The vegan, the health, all of the things. So it made sense for her to launch this supplement line all around all of the things that she believes in. And you know why this brand is taken off? Because we believe her. We believe you. We believe that you believe in these products. We believe that you would create a product that works in this way and you show up in this way and it feels real to me. So I'm not of the belief that it can't be done with celebrities or influencers anymore or any of these things. I think it just has to be done in the right way. Because it's not just about the product and a great product. It's about the way you position it. And if you're the brand, we have to position you.
Well, and even more, like you're right, it's a lifestyle brand for a reason. That is her lifestyle forever, probably. Like, you don't become a girl who starts eating McDonald's every day once you've gone the Goop route, like that's just not realistic. So this is something that will carry with her through life. And I'm sure over time she'll have new products, new supplements at different age brackets that are appropriate for the ones that match her. So that makes total sense. Like, adjust based on where your life is going if you're attaching it to yourself.
Yeah.
Super, super interesting.
I mean, if Kylie were to come out with something authentic to her being a mom, maybe that'll do well, right? Because everything she's doing right now, it seems to be more focused on what we're seeing with this whole creator economy. People just want to get paid for promoting products, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't know that Kylie authentically wants to be the mom. I think that's the point.
Right? That's essentially the point, is that she's trying to be something that she hasn't even defined what that is, but she's still so baked in this culture of just promoting products because that's got her the rich. So it is kind of a miss on the audience, but it's also a miss on her authenticity.
She's just looking for a meal ticket. Like, this is like, oh, my business right there is starting to go down. Time to start planting seeds. And I mean, look, it's not like Kim hasn't done the same thing. She's launched like 10 different brands over the last decade, and only Skims really was the one that took off like crazy for her. But she, like most marketers, took a chance on several different things and then finally found the one that worked and then rode that wave.
And how authentic is Skims?
What's up?
How authentic is Skims?
She was wearing shapewear before. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she probably like invented shapewear before shapewear was even a thing. I mean, that's how much I believe that, like, that's the point. It's like the believability.
I agree.
Right? Like, yeah. And it took her a while to get there. And I don't think that it's over for Kylie. I think that Kylie, I mean, that's the beauty with like, we have seen people rebrand, and we have seen it takes work, and it takes a complete kind of forgetting of what you thought you knew and starting over, but it can happen. And I think it all comes down to showing up exactly how you actually are, because we know when you're lying. I mean, lack of a better term.
That really honestly poses a good question. I know we're talking more on the influencer front, the creator front, but if we also look at this from the light of brands, right? How do you even choose the influencer that's going to most align with you? Because if they're not clear on their beliefs or principles or ideals and they're flip-flopping, it's going to make a brand look like they're flip-flopping. And going back to the whole creator economy thing, brands are just getting any sort of actor or any sort of influencer that they can, trying to just get engagement and get people to buy. But I don't see a lot of brands that are thinking about the impact that influencer is creating on their audience. To your point, whether that audience even believes them or not.
It's interesting too, because we
absolutely.
had, I mean, for forever before socials, there was always a brand and they would pick a spokesperson for a period of time and then they would eventually find a new person. But that spokesperson was always like a famous actor, celebrity, whatever. We're in such a different space where now it's more so like influencers and micro influencers and UGC creators representing brands. So there's lots of faces. Sometimes there's one if they're lucky and it makes sense. But because Gen Z, and I think Gen Z more than millennials, but Gen Z for sure is like paying attention to what is that creator doing personally and how does that then tie back to the brand. I don't think we ever really noticed or cared about what scandal or situation a celebrity was going through, even though they were always on the AT&T commercials or something like that. We're like separate people, separate things. But I think there's a much stronger connection now that it becomes a little bit more serious, like an actual relationship between influencer, celebrity, and brand.
Yeah, you know why? Because I think that we actually build these relationships with the influencers. They're definitely one-sided in most cases, but when we go online, in every single age demographic, when we go online, I see this person, I feel like I know them. I feel like I know who they are. And when they're promoting a product that I feel does not align with who they have shown up as, I immediately know. I'm like, you're getting a paycheck. The difference before, when we were growing up and we're seeing the commercials and the print ads and the editorial and all of that, we knew they were getting paid. They knew they were getting paid. But now what we're seeing is you're trying to say that this is a product you know, love, and use. Do we believe you? Right? And I think when the influencer era first started, before we had, all of the, the transparency that we have now, I think as we were kind of taking it all in, we didn't really know how much these people were making. I believed that they liked that product. I believed that they were using it. I didn't know it was a paid sponsorship. So that's kind of how this whole thing got rolling. And that's when we started having the need for transparency in marketing. And really, I think that's why it's the future is changing. Like, this is why, like, we are now shifting to a place where the only thing that matters is authenticity. So, I mean, I really believe that there is an opportunity for brands to market themselves differently and use different faces. People who actually believe in the causes that they believe in. People who believe not just in their product, but if you can align yourselves with what you truly, like what your core values are, and then match your people in the same way, you may not reach everybody, but you will create a loyal, authentic following that will buy whatever you're selling. It doesn't even matter. Like,
absolutely. 100%.
I mean, you're not for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly think that's what a lot of brands are struggling with today. On one side of the consumer, we have this veil being pulled back in the advertising world where people are starting to notice their same influencers are showing up on like 5 different companies that are all selling, right? And they're all saying, oh, this is the best company that sells X product. But they're seeing it over and over again where they're like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't line up. And you see brands are just aiming to continue to capitalize on that for the sake of revenue and whatever profit there may be. But if we look at like COVID, right? Look at the COVID years, 2020. During that time, I'm going to speak a little bit on economics here, try not to bore everyone. But during that time, we had a lot of young D2C brands get a whole bunch of funding who valued growth at all costs. So their whole goal was, how do we just get more sales and get in front of these younger audiences? So they went the UGC route. They, completely dominated this industry of taking influencers and making them paid spokespersons without telling everyone that it was paid. And now, as we're going into a bit of a recession here, we're seeing that funding is drying up. So these brands aren't very profitable, and they have to look at other strategies that align with their principles, but a lot of them didn't build their company on that. So really weird world in the advertising field, and there aren't a lot of brands that are doing an extremely well job with this. But I will say one that really highlighted this and did a good job of being authentic is Stanley. The little tumblers that everyone has.
Oh, I know.
Man, blew up. Let me just pull out some of the numbers for you. So Stanley wasn't really selling a lot of their Quencher bottles, the one that took the world by storm on TikTok last year. They at first went from about 73 million in 2019 to just over 402 million the last couple of years. But the main driver of that was this guy named Terrence Riley. He came from Crocs, ended up coming to Stanley and was their marketing person. And there were really like three large things that occurred. The first one was a little blogger group out of Utah called the Buy Guide. And they were reaching like nurses, teachers, etc. in that audience. And that founder was directly utilizing their product. Everyday life, she had maybe like 7 of their products before she even started promoting it. So there was an authentic connection to the company. She ended up buying 5,000 of Stanley's products and wholesale themselves to really push that out to her audience. Stanley grew from that. We have the situation on, I think it was Twitter, where a lady's house was burned down. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Was that real? Because that looked like the best marketing stunt I've ever seen in my life.
I don't know if it's real. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's real, but my Stanley, I'm the first one to say, I fill it with ice and it still has ice in it 2 days later. Sign me up, Stanley.
If it was fake, yeah, it was a hell of a market.
Oh my God.
See it to the point where people are collecting like 30, 40 different types of Stanleys to match their personality. Like it's
crazy.
It's a part of them, right? But they did that authentically. They started with a group of people who were already using their product and built off of their audience. And then
it's really interesting. They have also captured an audience of collectors who are not using. They're not going to use the Stanleys. They collect. Well, it's like Beanie Babies. Real. It is like Beanie Babies. They are collecting. There are resellers. They show up. They have limits on the amounts you can buy. People are lining up at Target 3 a.m. to get this Stanley so that they can sell it on eBay. They have created such a phenomenon around this product that really hasn't been done like this before. Sure, you had the Hydro Flask, you had the Yeti, you had all of these other brands, but Stanley created a culture. I think that's the difference.
It's always culture. And worth noting, they are technically a faceless brand. I've never associated a celebrity, an influencer, technically like a one influencer, to the brand. It's been community culture driven content that has built them to the core. And that is like best case scenario, right? That is the dream of any brand to go this route. It can be created and there's a framework to not necessarily manipulate it, but to generate this type of trajectory. But there's also a little bit of luck, I'd say too.
I would agree. I'd say luck probably plays a major portion of that. The likelihood of Stanley finding someone super niche that was talking about their product already and capitalizing on that. Most brands, let's be real, they're not going to invest the time to do that.
No.
Right? They're going to go straight to paid ads and try to just buy customers. Mm-hmm. So I do agree there was an element of luck to it. But to your point, like I can't name a major influencer that promoted Stanley. I haven't seen it.
No. I don't even know that they do campaigns in that way. I don't know that they do. I think that and I think there is a way that we could, and this is through social listening. This is the way in which we can we can't. I'm not saying the results may vary. The results may always vary. But there are different tools and methodologies that we can do to try to replicate this kind of fandom. Because that's really what it is. They've created the fandom. It's not just I like this product. It is a fandom. If you're a Stanley girl, gal, whoever, you are a Stanley person. Like, you will, I shout it from the rooftops. Nobody's asking. I'm telling you, nobody's asking me. I bring it to every white elephant exchange. Nobody's asking me, but I have found a cup that I love. And it's like almost, it's
making
crazy.
me want to buy
it's
one.
Crazy. You need, I'll buy you one. You need one.
And that's marketing greatness there. Like, you're finding the
Absolutely.
that agrees with you and is actively using you, and you highlight those stories.
And again, also worth noting, like, they took the long route. I think, like, to your point, James, most brands, D2C brands, will come into the game and launch, and they'll say, cool, we have our product, we have our website, we're going to put zero effort into our organic socials, and we're going to go straight to ads and just buy our customers. But then they forget about the most important lever, which is the community building side of things. It is not as, like, trackable as people would like it to be in comparison to ads. And it's definitely not going to be a one-to-one purchase from new follower. But it is the most impactful thing to have an organic audience following you along the way that you're building fandom around. You can't buy that kind of thing. You have to work towards it, and it's slow and steady. If you're enjoying this podcast and you want to get to know us at Austere a little bit more intimately, feel free to reach out to us at byaustere/podcast/connect. All you have to do is fill out a form, hop on a call, and you'll talk to one of us about what it's like to work with us, talk about your needs, and we'll figure out how we can help you best.
Let's bring this all kind of back full circle. What does the future of social content for brands look like?
Ooh.
I'll take this one. Honestly, I think it comes down to two statements. This is going to be an overgeneralization, but just some of the trends I'm seeing. We talked about the authenticity and how a lot of these influencers are having trouble with their image. But I feel like we don't give them enough grace, knowing that people aren't perfect. They are going to have their own arc, right? And to that same degree, brands shouldn't be perfect either. They should embrace their own authenticity. They should stand for something. So what I'm seeing and what I believe is that brands that are attached to their audience familiarity, masked through authentic community interaction and product convenience, is where social is going to go. So how can these brands activate these small, like, micro communities that love what they do, that share the same values as they do? And then how can brands put their product in front of their face more than just D2C? How do you get into retail? How do you get in just closer proximity to those communities?
I think there are two things happening. I think we may be seeing the end of the influence for influencer culture within brands, and we might see a rise of more faceless brands taking the longer route, like the Stanley example. I also think that at the end of the day, digging further deeper into that, culture content is everything. If you learn to speak the language of the internet as a brand and you participate in cultural moments, things like what's happening with Jojo Siwa and all the memes, things like that, if you're willing as a brand to not be scared to join in on the memification of something, or, playing into the TikTok CapCut trends or the intro transitions to promo videos, like the different examples of, like, car companies, like there's a Nissan company, there's a food restaurant or whatever, where they'll start with the viral, something crazy happens in a clip and the transition is someone falling on the ground and they're like, welcome to Trophy Nissan, blah, 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 blah. Those are so fun, and they're gaining popularity because those companies, whether they're local or not, are willing to take a chance on being a part of co-creation, pop culture, and culture content. So to me, that's going to be really what we see more and more in brands as they wake up to the future of social content.
Absolutely. I think that's really, really, it's really interesting to watch. I mean, to piggyback on what both of you are saying, I really believe that it all comes back to core values and aligning your messaging with the core values, right? And that doesn't mean that you have to comment on every single thing that's going on. That's not what that means. I don't care if you're political. I don't care if you kind of talk about things that are extremely controversial. You don't have to go there, but we do have to know where you stand on certain things. And what those things are is kind of irrelevant, but you have to have a stance on something. You have to believe in something, because that's what's going to allow your community to really feel like you're someone that and because the truth is, it's not just your product. The community wants to feel like the product and the people behind the product are people that they want to stand next to. Because I feel like that is really where that culture content can come in. And, I think there's an interesting play here that brands could be making with, employee advocacy. I've been talking about this for a long time, and I don't have a fully fleshed out idea on how this could manifest. However, I think there's a play here on different people who align in similar circles and align similarly typically are going to work together. You're not spending 40 to 60 hours of your life generally working for a company that you hate, you don't care, you have zero alignment with what they believe in. You're generally, you don't have to love everything, but you have to love something. So if you can utilize those people to amplify your brand, I feel like that could really be a win here in the future.
Love. I want to add one more that I just thought of, which is kind of leaning on what y'all were talking about, more transparency. There is a statistic that came out from Vogue Business in their report for 2024 that Gen Z predominantly doesn't want to buy products from companies that only have 4 and 5-star reviews, because that's just unrealistic, and to them that shows a lack of transparency. So ultimately in the future, showing off the bad reviews, telling people who you're not for, no more outlandish promises. Like, it's the anti-promo where you're saying it doesn't solve everything, it fixes one thing and that's it, and that's why you're buying it. Because we don't need more over marketization per se of products. We just need a stronger understanding of what am I actually getting, so that I become a 4 or 5-star review, not a 3, 2, 1-star review saying I thought it was going to be all these things and it was just this.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah,
It's good stuff.
Well, this was an amazing, fun call with you guys. Absolutely loved it. I hope everyone listening enjoyed it as well. We will be back next week to talk through some other things, some new topics. And if you have anything you want us to go over and break down in the space of socials, marketing, ads, and everything in between when it comes to the social sphere, let us know, and we will see you next time.
Follow this podcast to get updates on all future episodes, and follow Austere on social media for a good time. Our Instagram handle is @Austere. Peace and blessings.